I think it's very important for anyone to understand a little bit of basic emergency care and some wound care for our horses. And so first what I'm going to show you is how to wrap a leg if you would say potentially have an injury, some type of cut here somewhere in the middle of the lower leg. Some of the materials that we're going to use are basically a 4x4 gauze pad, and we're going to put it just as if we had an open wound on that horse. Then we have a type of a wrap. This is a quilt wrap that we're going to use. Many times when a veterinarian first comes to wrap a leg, they might use a roll type gauze, and that's an excellent pressure type of wrap, but over time if you have to wrap that leg continuously, one of these types of wraps is very handy because you can wash it and replace it. Also, many times what your veterinarian initially will use is vet wrap, which is very nice, and you can get a nice good pressure on it and it will stick to itself, and so it really is an excellent wrap to use. However, you can only use it once, it's not reusable, and you do have to be careful because you can get this type of wrap a little bit too tight. And so that's a little bit with our vet wrap. What I'm going to show you today is how to wrap this with a polo wrap, because they are nice, you can reuse them, and once you've gone through some initial stages of wanting a lot of pressure, this is what you can use to wrap that leg every day if you need to change it. So we're going to say that this horse has a potential injury here somewhere in this area, and right over that laceration, cut, whatever it might be, we're going to put some type of, usually an ointment or a salve, whatever your veterinarian recommends, and we'll put some type of 4x4 gauze pad over there just to help to protect that area. Sometimes we might also wrap it with a little bit of roll gauze, and that just depends on the location of the injury and how severe it might be. Then whether you're using the roll cotton or a regular wrap such as this, we're going to wrap it in the same way, where we're going to bring it around that horse's leg and handle it so we're unrolling it as we take it around that horse's leg. It's very important that we keep it very smooth down the back of his tendons, the back side of his legs, because those are very lie just underneath the skin, and if you have a lot of wrinkles and that in this wrap, you could injure those tendons. So with the polo wrap, I'm going to start it somewhere in the middle and take it around to the front and bring it around and start relatively in the middle of the horse's cannon bone, taking it down, and each layer is going to overlap the previous one, and then I'm going to start it back up the leg like so, finish it just underneath that horse's knee, and then I'm going to wrap it back down lower so it comes out and finishes somewhere right kind of in the middle of that horse's cannon bone. A couple of things to remember is you can see that I left some of the white quilt at the bottom and the top, and that's really important so that this bandage does not cut off the circulation of that horse. And this is, if you could feel it, it's not overly firm, but it's firm enough to give that leg some support and help that wound heal up as best as possible. Many times you're going to want to take this off daily, hydro that leg, run cold water on it, and then replace it until that wound is nice and healed up. Sometimes you run into a horse that has some type of injury to their foot. They might have stepped on something and run a nail into it. They might have a bruise, an abscess, or something wrong with the horse's foot. It's important, if you notice that before your veterinarian can get there, to go ahead and pull the nail out or whatever it might be, and go ahead and protect the bottom of that horse's foot so you don't make the injury even worse. So one thing you can do is you might put some iodine or betadine on there. Go ahead and cover it with a piece of gauze to help cover that area that might be affected. Also, it's handy if you have some basic household foil, aluminum foil, that you can go ahead and cover the bottom of the foot with that foil. Then really one of the best things to secure all that onto that bottom of the horse's foot is some duct tape. And we're going to go ahead and take and pretty much just basically cover this horse's foot with the duct tape to keep everything kind of clean and protect the bottom of that foot. So I'm going to take it several rounds, so pretty much just cover everything over his foot, secure it on down, and go ahead, and you can see it's going to make a pretty nice bandage there on the bottom of his foot. They also like to say that it's a good vapor barrier, so it's not going to allow moisture to the bottom of the foot. Something that's very important, however, is that the duct tape only stays on the hoof wall. You don't want it to get up over into the hairline of that horse because you can have some issues of circulation. So that's just an example of one way that you can wrap the bottom of that horse's foot if you have an injury that you find. This horse just happens to have a cut on her leg that I thought I'd take just a moment or two and talk about. You know, they're going to get cut any different kind of ways. She might have stuck her leg through a fence. I'm not exactly sure how this happened. This cut is really very much on the good healing side of it, and some cuts you can suture, some cuts you can't. Part of it depends on what's happened to them. Part of it depends also when you might have found it. I'm assuming most likely when this cut was first found, we did go ahead and have it wrapped to some degree. Now at the point of where it is, you can see there's nice granulation tissue coming in. It still is weeping just a little bit, but it is healing up quite well. We want to be careful that it heals up nice and smooth, that we don't get what we call proud flush developing. Even on this cut at this stage, it's probably not a bad idea to do hydrotherapy, basically run water on it to help keep it clean. One of the most difficult things about wound care on horses is trying to keep the flies out of it. At certain times of the year, through the summer months and fall months, then it can be a very big problem of flies getting into those wounds and really slowing down how they're going to heal. So sometimes there's different salves and ointments you can put on them. Sometimes you might have to keep a wrap on them, basically so the flies stay out of them, which those flies will slow down how well that they do heal.